Thank you very much. And now I would like to introduce Ms. Annaig Birdy, who is a legal professional, lesbian feminist, and the president of Not All Gays, an Irish grassroots advocacy organization focused on the rights of same-sex attracted individuals, sex-based rights, and protections and child safeguarding. She has delivered parliamentary briefings on surrogacy, its impact on women and children, and the misuse of gay rights to advocate for pro-surrogacy legislation in Ireland. And she also made submissions to the parliaments in Ireland and the UK and internationally in relation to this. At the Not All Gays conference earlier this year, she hosted a panel discussion on surrogacy and its harm to women and children. Ms. Birdy, we would like to discuss with you the ethical dilemmas of surrogacy. Could you please share with us your perspective on ethical questions related to surrogacy, particularly commercial surrogacy, and what questions it raises regarding commodification of women's bodies and the rights and well-being of children, and also how these issues relate to framework of LGBT rights?
Excellencies, distinguished guests and colleagues, thank you for being here today. Particular thank you to the Government of Italy and UN Special Rapporteur, Reem Al-Salem, for inviting me and allowing me the opportunity to represent Not All Gays and offer a differing view on surrogacy from a gay rights perspective. You've been lied to. You may have been told that surrogacy is a progressive path to equality, that it's a natural extension of gay rights, that denying it is denying us as same-sex couples, or the expanding LGBTQI acronym, our dignity, our families, our future. But not only is that a manipulative lie, but it is intellectually dishonest and an insult to our historical fight for equal treatment as same-sex attracted people. As a lesbian, an advocate for both women's rights and gay rights, I stand before you to say surrogacy is not liberation, it is reproductive exploitation, and using gay rights to justify it is a betrayal of everything our movement once stood for. At Not All Gays, our abolitionist stance is grounded in robust evidence. The documented exploitation of women in both commercial and so-called altruistic arrangements, the lasting psychological and physical harm to surrogate mothers and children, the testimonies of people born through surrogacy, and the deeply troubling narratives and actions of pro-surrogacy lobbyists and commissioning parents. This is not a path to equality. It is a betrayal of the very values our movement once fought for. Surrogacy, whether commercial or altruistic, exposes women and girls to multiple forms of violence and risks, which have been addressed by my colleagues on the panel. Outside of the clear financial coercion present in international surrogacy arrangements, emotional coercion is a pervasive and deeply under-acknowledged feature of so-called altruistic arrangements, particularly when the surrogate mother is a friend or relative of the commissioning couple. In the context of gay male couples who are often affluent, socially influential, and embedded within progressive professional or even celebrity circles, the coercion may not be overtly physical, but the emotional and social power dynamics are undeniable. Women are routinely subjected to subtle, insidious pressure to be good friends, loving sisters, or supportive allies to gay men in their lives, pressured to offer their bodies health and fertility in the name of solidarity and love. These emotional dynamics are often framed in manipulative terms. Women are told to remember how happy they were when they had their own children and asked if they wouldn't want the same for their brother, cousin, or gay best friend. It is our position at Not All Gays that this constitutes a clear violation of bodily autonomy, facilitated not by force, but by guilt, obligation, and performative allyship. Furthermore, this coercion is exacerbated by the growing cultural narrative that suggests any refusal to participate in surrogacy arrangements for gay men is inherently anti-gay or homophobic. This creates a hostile environment in which legitimate concerns about exploitation, health risks, and emotional boundaries are silenced under the weight of identity politics. The implication that being a true supporter of gay rights must include willingness to bear a child for a gay man is deeply troubling and dangerously reductive. It reframes complex ethical issues as loyalty tests and turns women's bodies into instruments for affirming the identities and adult wants of others. The physical risks include increased maternal mortality when egg donors are used, which is often the case in male commissioning scenarios. Studies show that the use of egg donors increase the risks of preeclampsia, preterm birth, and maternal mortality, risks frequently downplayed in the consent process. Often by pro-surrogacy lobbyists, there is a conflation between lesbians accessing sperm donation and gay men commissioning a surrogate. Not only is there a proven increased risk to the women during pregnancy, but a woman, be it the birthing woman or the separate egg donor, is also expected to undergo egg retrieval, which also involves a risk of death and physical harm. The surrogate mother will then be expected to undergo rounds of hormonal injections, including often the castration drug Lupron, which was historically used to chemically castrate homosexual men, including Alan Turing, followed by the risk and complication of pregnancy, labour, delivery, and postnatal complications. To suggest this is in any way comparable to donated semen is an egregious distortion of reality that obscures the fundamental unequal burdens placed on women's bodies in male commissioning arrangements. Sperm donation is a low-risk outpatient procedure where surrogacy requires multiple women to undergo invasive, high-risk, and often traumatic medical interventions, all to fulfill the reproductive desires of others. Equating the two erases the sex-based harms and serves to sanitize a system built on commodification and exploitation of women. Let's be clear, being gay does not make you infertile. Gay men are not biologically incapable of reproduction. They are simply unable to reproduce with one another. That is not a medical condition, it is a biological reality, and as adults, we must accept that reality. At Not All Gays, we understand the longing and difficulties same-sex couples face when wanting to start a family. I would love nothing more than to someday become a mother myself, but that does not entitle anyone, regardless of sexuality, to treat a woman as an incubator or a child as a commodity to be bought and sold. There are many ethical options available for same-sex couples, adoption, fostering, and co-parenting, and yet the narrative persists that gay men need surrogacy, that denying it is discrimination. Another issue that wasn't touched on by my colleagues is the false imprisonment is a disturbingly common feature of international surrogacy arrangements, particularly in low-income countries. In one striking example shared at a surrogacy conference that we attended in autumn 2023 in Ireland, a heterosexual Irish couple disclosed that they were instructed by a Colombian surrogacy agency not to communicate directly with the surrogate mother carrying the child. They were reassured that the woman was healthy and under medical supervision, yet were prohibited from meeting her or verifying her well-being. The agency also informed them that the surrogate mother was contractually barred from leaving the country of Colombia during her pregnancy. This level of control, restricting a woman's movement across borders for the duration of a pregnancy, amounts to de facto false imprisonment. Although the legislation in Ireland allows only altruistic arrangements, in practice, surrogacy remains deeply commercial. Irish couples have openly admitted to paying vast fortunes, including remortgaging their homes, without ever having so much as a phone call with the surrogate mother in countries where these women face financial coercion rather than voluntary consent. These payments, domestically and internationally, are being framed in Ireland as reasonable expenses. One high-profile former senator who was at the helm of pushing through the Irish legislation even admitted to leveraging her political connections to complete her surrogacy contract in a foreign jurisdiction, highlighting the impunity of this system. That jurisdiction subsequently banned all international surrogacy. Additionally, since the war in Ukraine began in 2022, at least 98 babies have been born through surrogacy arrangements for Irish couples. These babies are separated from their birth mothers immediately after birth, cared for by nurses in clinics or by babysitters in so-called baby dens rather than their mothers, while commissioning parents are delayed due to the conflict. This separation is not only emotionally traumatic, but unmistakably commercial and exploitative. This system is driven by lobbyists who use the language of LGBTQ and gay rights to push surrogacy despite the inherent contradictions. Countries like Kenya, where surrogacy is often arranged, particularly in Ireland, actively criminalise homosexuality with punishments ranging from imprisonment to severe social ostracism. Yet LGBTQ lobbyists such as Irish Gay Dads and LGBT Ireland in Ireland and Men Having Babies, which held a conference in New York this week, and even the EU LGBTQ lobby continue to advocate for surrogacy in these countries, ignoring the fact that those commissioning surrogacy arrangements would face legal consequences if they lived openly in such regions. This hypocrisy is shielded by accusations of homophobia, silencing critical discussions on the human rights violations of surrogacy. It is obvious that this is not about gay rights, but about the entitlement of wealthy, often influential couples and their adult wants, and is most certainly not at the best interests of the child they contract to be born. We must reject the idea that surrogacy is in any way a human right, let alone a gay right. It is not. It is a system of sex-based violence cloaked in rainbow rhetoric, and it is a human rights violation for both the surrogate mothers and the children born of surrogacy. You have been lied to, but now it's time to tell the truth.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all the panelists for the very insightful remarks.